Welcome to Stress Mess, a stressless podcast where the chaos is real, the caffeine is strong, and swearing sometimes happens, and that's okay. I'm Samantha Elizabeth, health and wellness coach, chronic overthinker, and proud BFFs to stress itself. Here we're ditching perfection, embracing unfiltered real talk, and making mindset shifts that might just keep us from screaming into the void. Let's get messy. Today's episode is a special one. I'm sitting down with AJ, and not only are we diving into the most honest conversations about growth, mindset, and that little voice in your head that keeps telling you you're not doing enough, but this is also AJ's very first time being a guest on a podcast, and I am truly honored to be a part of that moment. We talk about what it means to feel like you're behind in life, how the should voice creates stress and shame, and how to start reframing challenges as what AJ calls another fucking growth opportunity. This conversation is real, it's reflective, and it might just change the way you look at the hard moments in your life. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stress Mess podcast. I am here with AJ. AJ, I'm going to understand this. This is your first podcast recording as a guest, right?
As a guest. I have done 90 podcasts as a host.
Okay.
But I have never been a guest.
Oh my goodness. Well, I am so honored for you to be a guest on this podcast and for your first guest opportunity. Tell us about your podcast before we get to the main meaty subject here.
Oh, thank you. My podcast is called Thriving Through, and it is targeted to self-employed consultants because it's a lonely world being a self-employed consultant.
Oh, yes.
And that's how we met was through my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And we can learn from each other. We're all kind of groping through, learning how to figure out how to lead gen and lead nurture and convert and enjoy it and have a fulfilling practice, and talking to other self-employed consultants who are going through the same kind of things.
Yes.
It's just, you can learn a lot, and it's just nice to have a tribe, to know you're not terminally unique in what you're struggling with.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of solopreneur, entrepreneur friends, and I love being able to share with them if something that I've learned, to be able to help them. I think that is just such a wonderful thing of your podcast for other people to identify, because sometimes when you get into business and you're going at it and all of a sudden you're just like, well, shouldn't I know this already? Or shouldn't I, and you're struggling and you don't understand why you're struggling. And a lot of it, could be mindset, which of course, this is what we talk about, on the Stress Mess podcast. So I want to get into the meat of our podcast today, because
I want to say something about what you just said, though, that is really important. Is we have a voice in our head. Most of us have a voice that says you should be doing this. You should be further along. You should know this. You shouldn't have said that.
Yep.
That should voice, and that should voice is the part of our brain that's trying to protect us.
Yep.
But it is extremely dysfunctional, and most of us listen to it. I mean, I've let my that should voice in my head lead me around my whole life.
Yeah. I completely, understand that too. I mean, because sometimes when we grow up, we should get married, we should have children, all of those kind of things that we hold ourselves to, because maybe it's family tradition, or it's those things that, we think we should be doing our whole life. I call that shoulding all over yourself, when you should, you should yourself. And, those are the kind of things that we hold ourselves to. And it creates a lot of stress, in people's
lives. It does. It creates a lot of stress and shame, because if that voice is telling you, you should say this, you should behave this way, you should follow this path.
Yeah.
Then that voice is also shaming you because you're not behaving the way you should.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many times in my life that I was thinking I should be somewhere different in my life. I should have all of these things, set up in my life, and am I an adult? Like all of those kind of things run through my head, in my 20s, 30s, and even now in my 40s, too, is that whole like, where am I supposed to be? But I'm realizing like, and this is, just growth and maturity, is realizing that wherever I am in my life, that's where I should be right now. Right.
Exactly.
And be
Yes.
okay with that.
Be okay with that. That's the acceptance of, this is our path. And it may
Yeah.
not look like the path that we thought we were going to be on, but it is our path. And, it's a whole lot more stress if we're
Yeah.
railing against it and saying this is not, I don't accept this reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much better to take a breath and just
Yes.
accept that we're where we're supposed to be.
Yes, exactly. And that's something I think hard for a lot of people too. I mean, as they get older and, all of these things that they had kind of on their list of things that they think they should have done with their lives, and it's hard for people to, accept, as they get older that perhaps those opportunities had passed them by and they feel like, oh, can I still do those things? No, I can't. I'm too old. And all of those kind of things. And that's really hard for so many people to come to that and to let some things go that they thought they should have done, with their lives. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt that so acutely
Mm.
when I closed my consulting business at the end of 2018. And because I wanted to go into coaching so I could help individuals rather than companies.
Yeah.
And I remember, and truth be told, I could have built my consulting business back up. I had lost a retainer client and I had said, I don't have enough volume. I mean, I don't have enough revenue coming in.
Sure.
But I had this, when I closed my business, I had this very strong belief that I had failed as a businesswoman because I had never met my revenue objectives.
Ooh.
I had made a good living, but I'd never gotten to like multi-six figure or all the things that the internet world tells us we're supposed to aspire to.
Yep.
And I remember standing, it was my birthday in April 2019. I was standing in the shower and I was thinking, I failed as a businesswoman, and I was kind of thinking back of all the things that I didn't do well. I was, thought I sucked at sales. I didn't do well at sales. I was inconsistent in my podcast. I couldn't pick up the phone, and just feeling like I failed. I totally failed. And then feeling like, but it's not too late, even though that was my 65th birthday. So technically I was retired, could be. The thought came into my head, it's not too late.
Yeah.
To do this, to start this dream of building a coaching business.
Yeah.
It took me 5 years, but I finally kind of did it.
But that's the thing is your brain has to catch up though. I think, sometimes that either the thoughts are, ahead or something, and you're not fully there. You haven't fully developed into that kind of way of thinking. And that's also hard for a lot of people too, that they feel, or should be further along and in their way of thinking, or even, that imposter syndrome. And I know that we've talked about, that imposter syndrome before, is that that feeling that they're not where they're supposed to be. And, you got to get your mind to kind of catch up to either where you want to be, or, that way of where your mind is going. And that is just fully kind of stepping into your shoes or stepping into something. I got to say, I probably did a little bit of the opposite too, because I started off with coaching for my business, but having 25 years of experience and employee experience and client experience, I was like, man, I'm kind of abandoning that knowledge and that skill, that I could be teaching others. And so, I did coaching and consulting, for a number of years. And now I'm kind of, I know my coaching clients, please, I'm not abandoning you whatsoever. I'm just letting you know, but I am going to be kind of putting my coaching to the side for a little bit and concentrating on my consulting side, because it's that, same kind of thing of, well, having two different types of concentrations and everything kind of splits my brain a little bit as far as, the structure and the creativity and all of that kind of stuff. But then also too, it's just that I really want to concentrate on my consulting side, because it's funny that, for me and my health coaching is really easy for me to market, but hard for me to sell. And it's the opposite with my consulting. That's hard for me to market, because what I do, and I gotta say, I went to a networking event today, and it's still hard to describe to people that I work on employee experience and customer experience. And they say, or client or patient or whatever kind of experience, whoever's the end user for a business. And it's funny because they always say, oh, HR. And I'm like, well, no, because client experience doesn't run under HR. I'm like, no, it's business strategy. It's business operations and marketing, and even sometimes financials, as well too. And they're like, wait, what? Well, what do you do? And I like, it just kind of gets confusing because experience is not a new concept, but it seems like the woo woo, to a lot of companies. So anyway, I'm not going to get down that rabbit hole or anything like that, but it's funny, trying to get yourself fully into the shoes that you want to fill.
Yes. And embracing where we have credibility.
Yes.
Because when I started coaching, because I had considered myself, even though I was not a failure in my consulting business. I ran it for 35 years.
Yeah.
And I made good money. I was the preeminent authority in my niche. But mentally, I didn't think I was a success because I hadn't made the money I thought I should be making. Mm-hmm. So I had this concept that I had failed as a businesswoman. So, of course, I turned my back on 35 years of experience as a consultant. And I looked at other target markets. And it was only about a year and a half ago that I kind of went, oh my God, who should I be working with? I should be working with self-employed consultants because I understand them. I've been there, but also I have had to wrestle with this whole new way of marketing that we are faced now with social media and, thought leadership and lead gen on digital platforms. I mean, the world of marketing has so fundamentally changed in the last 10 years that I have had to wrestle with that as well. So that made me realize that my biggest value was embracing my history and and all of that experience, and that you did the same thing with your customer and employee experience.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm going to say it's not trying to completely abandon your experience or your skills or your knowledge in a certain area, but rather transform it, into something else. And I'm going to say utilizing, but I have a friend that hates that word, but using that knowledge and that skills and experience in a different way. It's not that you're completely abandoning it. It's not like you're completely putting it to bed, but, you're rather pivoting that, to make sure that you're still using it. So like one of the strong suits, that I have, for my business is that I'm really highly organized. I'm really good at communications, that sort of thing. That's something that I gained from being an employee and client experience manager, is really knowing that you have to be highly organized, or else people are going to see the disarray, you have to be able to communicate, or people are not going to have a great experience because they're not getting any communications, so it's those kind of things that I can definitely pivot, into my coaching, quite a bit, is giving my coaching clients, a great experience, because I know how to do that. I know how to communicate. I know how to organize and, document things and, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's about pivoting. It's about still using those particular skills to be able to move on to the next thing in your life, the thing that makes you more you, in the work that you're doing. Absolutely. I really want to. Are you ready to talk about the acronym? You brought up this acronym to me, and I absolutely loved it because well, first of all, includes a swear word, so trigger warning for everybody. But the acronym is AFGO, which stands for Another Growth Opportunity. I
Yep.
absolutely love it. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about your connection to the acronym and what you have learned from that.
Well, I love the acronym. It came from the Alcoholics Anonymous is where I first heard it, in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I love it because adversity, hardship, failures are the root of growth opportunities, but we usually don't see them that way. It's like, oh crap, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Rather than saying, wow, what can I learn from this? So when I think of another growth opportunity, it's like kind of playing on the fact that it's an ocean, like, I really don't want to have another growth opportunity. Thank you very much. But then it's embracing the fact that the universe or God or, higher power is saying you're ready to grow. And you don't want to grow because human nature, we kind of resist it. You don't want to grow, but I know that you're ready to go growth. So I'm going to throw a hurdle in your path that you have to jump through or that you have to learn from.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by an AFGO. And I say it, my poor little sponsee she's mid-40s, but she's younger than me. So I call her my little sponsee in my AA sponsee. She rolls her eyes when I say, it's an AFGO. Yay, you've got another AFGO. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't want another AFGO.
Right. Yeah, and there's some people that get more AFGOs than other people. I feel, or at least, maybe they see it that way. They don't see it, as here's a lesson, but oh my gosh, here we go again, and of course, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, it's the saying, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know about that.
It's embracing change is a good thing.
Yeah.
And, and as human beings, we resist change. So it's no wonder when we are put in a situation where we're being presented the opportunity to change, we're going to resist it. That's just, that's not comfortable. We want to stay in our safe little comfortable cocoon, mentally and even physically. And, life doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well,
change is the only constant, the one thing we know, death, taxes, and change.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. As a child, I had a lot of change in my life. My biological father, left and we moved across the country. I had, I think, 6 or 7 different elementary schools, that I went to. There was a lot of change in my childhood. And, for me, I was like, I have to be stable, when I'm an adult, I have to. And that's one thing, is that I've given my child, as much stability as possible, but it's still chaotic for me, as far as change happens, of course, jobs and, different, clients and things like that. And I feel like when I feel stuck in one situation and everything, it kind of makes me feel like I need a change, and it's just because that's been how it's been my whole life. It's just change, change, change. And, yeah, it's, well, I mean, if everybody knows that listens or watches this podcast, my word of the year is rooted, which is forcing myself to really get rooted in myself, where I am physically in the world, all of those, kind of things. And so that's something that was just really important to me, of why I chose that word for the year, because I really need to root myself. And so do you have a word for the year by chance?
Oh, I haven't consciously thought of it, but I think the word that comes to mind is gratitude. And because it's easy for me not to feel grateful, about things, because if I focus on what I don't have,
Yeah.
then I don't appreciate what I do have. And if I stop and, the gratitude is a game changer for me. When I'm in
Mhm.
a grumpy mood, or, wishing things were different, just stop
Yeah.
and appreciate that I have a roof over my head, and that I have a loving husband and an adorable dog, and, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to pull my journal out. I don't do a gratitude list every day, but I usually do about once a week. But then there are times when I'm journaling and it's like, okay, do a gratitude list, and I'm saying, I can't think of a thing to be grateful for.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
when I need to double down and say,
Yeah.
okay, AJ, list 10 things you're grateful for, specific things, not I'm grateful because I'm alive,
Yeah.
but very
Right.
specific things. And
Mhm.
that 180 turns my mood around.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I love
Yep.
your word rooted, because it strikes me you can be rooted emotionally and mentally even if your physical environment is chaotic. If
Mm.
you have those roots and you're grounded and centered
Yep.
in yourself, then the outside chaos can whirl around you and you don't get knocked over.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that a lot of people have a hard time with, if their physical space, and this is something that I do in my coaching is, teaching people how to clean up their physical space so they feel more comfortable in it. Because some people, even though in their mind it might be chaotic, and their physical space is also chaotic too. If they kind of clean up that space, then their mind will actually get clearer. So
Mm-hmm.
teaching, people how to do that, decluttering. I have a good friend, she does feng shui practice. She was actually on the podcast too, to talk about that and to talk about energy flows and, ways that people can feel better in their physical space, regardless if they have a lot of stuff or very little things, at all of doing that. And I think that's, something that a lot of times people have a hard time with. And in coaching, that it's that intrinsic motivation versus that extrinsic motivation, the
Mm-hmm.
internal versus the external. And a lot of people look to the external to be able to be more grounded rather than the internal to be more grounded. So they're looking for stability in relationships and their physical environment and other, type of external forces, if you will, to feel more grounded in themselves. And when things are chaotic on the outside, they're chaotic on the inside because they haven't figured out how to really root themselves. And that is, something that I'm working on too. Mine's more of a physical rooting, though,
Uh-huh.
more than anything. And part of it is just because uh, I live in Houston. I've been here since 2008, and I call myself the reluctant Houstonian because I'm not sure about Houston still. It's like it's
Yeah, I
been
can relate. Yeah. That's how I
yeah.
feel about Phoenix. I've lived here since 1990 and wasn't my place of choice.
Yeah, and it's funny that like where who's that Groucho Marx that always says wherever you are, what does he say? Wherever you are, that's where you are, or something like that. I can't remember. I'm gonna look that up, but it's just like about being okay with wherever you are. And going back to the beginning of our conversation here, where you are in your life, and being okay with
Mm-hmm.
that, but then being okay where you are physically at that time and really internalizing that and being like, I'm okay, here.
So you're overcoming your reluctance to Houston this year with the word rooted.
Yep.
You're learning how to root into Houston and embrace Houston rather than saying it's a place I am, but I don't really want to be here.
Yes. And it's not that I don't want to be here because my kiddo is here, obviously, and I want to be near my kiddo being 15 years old, all at this time. So it's not like my kiddo is going off and, doing his own thing yet. But it's that sort of thing of like, yes, I'm going to be fully more embracing Houston, because I know that when I have friends and family members that say, hey, I'm going to visit Houston, what should I see? And I'm like, there's NASA and there's food. So like, and I'm like, to think about other things. And then it's just like, it's the same kind of thing that when you think about gratitude, you think about like, well, there's nothing that I'm grateful for. I was doing the same thing about Houston. I was saying, well, there's nothing here. I mean, if you want to go see NASA, that's pretty cool. If you want to eat some food, but you can eat food at a lot of different places too. But that's also when I start to reach further in and realize, no, there's a lot of other cool things. We have a really cool museum district with lots of cool museums. I mean, I went to the Funeral History Museum, and like that was really cool because they have a lot like that old hearses. And anyway, it's just, there's a lot of things in Houston that it's that digging deeper, rather than that kind of surfacey type of stuff, thinking about. But it's the same thing with gratitude too, so I gotta say, I'm grateful for being in Houston.
Yay.
So
you probably couldn't say that a year ago, right?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think, and I'm starting to get that since I made the word of the year back in December, and I already started on my rootedness, back in December. So not starting January 1, but that is something that I slowly started to realize, that there's a lot more opportunity here too. And, another thing too, is that I was always looking for clients outside of Houston too, like, and now that I've like fully kind of embraced, my physical space, that's another thing too, is that I'm finding more clients actually in Houston, people that actually want to meet face to face, instead of online all the time. So it's like, oh man, okay, I'm getting this,
Yep. I love that. I love that, how you've taken that out of the word rooted.
Yeah, definitely. And I gotta say, with your word gratitude, and I know that's not like, the official, but it's one word that you're really embracing. So how do you feel on the AFGO, on that? How do you feel like gratitude and AFGO are related for you?
They are absolutely related, because if I am really embracing the AFGO as in a positive way, then I'm grateful for it. I mean, by definition, for me, if I say it's an AFGO, then I'm not fighting it. And I'm always grateful for growth opportunities, painful though they may be, because otherwise next year I'll be just the same as I am right now. And I want to be constantly evolving and growing and getting to be a better version of me.
I love that. So is there anything specific that you want to share or anything like that on the podcast?
Something that came up that we're talking about is the when we look to the outside for like our self-esteem or for our rooting, and we're rooted when we get validated by someone else. It reminds me of a principle in recovery called emotional sobriety. And the opposite is emotional dependency. And we are all emotionally dependent to some degree or another, with a lot of us need some external validation. We need to know from other people that we're doing a good job, or that that my husband is not mad at me. I mean, if my husband's in a bad mood, it will immediately cause me to be in a bad mood. That's emotional dependency, because I can't separate. I can't say he's feeling moody and that's okay. I'm going to allow him to feel moody, and I'm not going to go there. I'm going to keep happy. So that's one of the areas that I work on a lot, is the concept of emotional sobriety and letting go of the emotional dependencies because those are the things that cause us suffering. They cause us, whenever you're triggered by something, like if somebody irritates you or a situation
Yeah.
irritates you, it's always because you had an expectation that it should be different.
Yeah.
And that expectation always means that underneath it, there is some form of emotional dependence.
Yeah. Wow, I know, I mean, as an empath, for myself, I'm a strong empath. If somebody's having a bad day, I'm having a bad day right there with them, and that's just part of my empathy is I always say that, like, when you love somebody, you love what they love, and when somebody like somebody that you love hates something, you hate what they hate as well too. But that can't always be the case too,
Right.
because if you are constantly feeling what they're feeling, you're not giving them the stability that they need too, in some ways. So if somebody's in a really bad mood, you can't also be in a bad mood with them, because that just adds to it. It's that cyclical thing of like the downward spiral, of some sort. Maybe what they need right then is maybe they do need company in the misery, that they have at that time. But maybe that's not really what they need. What they really need is somebody to help bring them back up, as well too. And that might be their emotional attachment, to you, is that dependency, on what your mood is like, what is theirs. And our children, like they feel that of like when your parent is having a bad day, and they're kind of taking out on you, like you're also going to feel that too. And that's something that is hard for people to learn, is how to detach their emotions from other people. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, very hard to detach our emotions, and also to allow, because your comment about, if you love someone, you love what they love, and I will challenge you a little on that,
Hmm.
because freedom in a relationship is, if somebody loves something and you don't love it,
Hmm.
you're still okay.
Yeah.
You're not, if I love something, I mean, I love doing yoga. Well, my husband, know he likes to stand behind me when I'm doing down dog because he's a dog. But he would never be on a yoga mat. And I
Yeah.
used to wish, it's like, boy, it would really be cool. I'd see couples in yoga classes together, and I think, wow, that would be so cool if Tim would come to a yoga
Yeah.
class with me. Well,
Right.
he's never going to be a yogini,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah, and what I meant by that is that you're not going to yuck somebody's yum. So, let's just say, obviously you're really big into yoga, and what if every time you're doing yoga, your husband walks by and goes, "Oh, you're doing that again." Like, this is kind of annoying, that you're doing this. You're taking up some space in our house, by doing it, like
Yes.
yucking your yum. Like, you love to do this, and this is something that you enjoy, rather than being encouraging, and I think, I mean, that's what I mean, not necessarily being like, you're fully into that, I'm fully into that, sort of thing, but
Right.
rather just being supportive and allowing them time or space and stuff like that to be able to do the things that they love, and not just putting them down or rolling your eyes, whenever they bring up like something that they love to do, and that's what I mean. It's just more of
Yeah.
partner support. And then
Yeah, I
just
get
like
that.
that enthusiasm, like somebody, says, "Oh my gosh, something cool really happened to me today." And this is, and they start, talking about like something cool that happened to them. And you just sit there and, ah, well, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Like
Let's
you want
Enough
to,
about you. Let's talk about me.
yeah, exactly. So it's that sort of thing that you want to get enthusiastic with them, and
Yeah.
um, encourage them to continue to do that, or else that unfortunately builds resentment in relationships. Is that you're not allowing the person to be themselves. You're putting them into a box, unfortunately.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Wow. Well, this is like some very powerful things. So thank you so much for sharing. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this episode of the podcast?
Hmm.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, nothing's coming to mind.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And I really hope that you enjoyed your very first guest podcast.
Yes, this was fun. This
Yay.
was
Yeah.
fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. Well, great. Well, I'm super excited. I'm super excited to continue, our relationship together too. And thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Mwah.